Joining me now, Mark Eiglarsh, a former prosecutor, now defense attorney, and again, Brian Claypool, who is a defense attorney as well. So now here it stands, Mark. They're back in there. They got their Allen charge. You tell me, I'll give it to you as from my legal perspective. If I'm the defense, I don't like this because they reached a verdict on a count that was the prosecution's strongest count. You heard the legal analyst say. And so there's one juror in there who's at least one who's on my side, but not on, maybe not on that count. And now she's being told, or he's being told, to go talk to the others who may potentially be against me.
Exactly. I don't like it at all, and I've been struggling to come up with how they could be not guilty on count 3, and I don't see it. And keep in mind, I'm speculating, but look at count 3. Count 3 says that he received contributions from Bunny Mellon in 2008 over the amount excessive of federal limits. Count 2 that they're hung on is identical in language except for the year. So that means on count 2, you've got people that for 9 days were entrenched and have not been changing their minds at all in believing that Edwards is guilty of that. Now, the defense had nothing to do with the year. The defense, which was apparently, I believe, had to have been rejected because some are still saying he's guilty of those other counts, was no, it was a gift. It wasn't a contribution. So I'm having a hard time thinking how count 3 could be anything other than guilty at this point.
It's tough to get there. And clearly, Brian Claypool, the defense attorney, wanted to get out of this altogether because he was pushing for a mistrial. He did not get it. Is there any chance he can still get a mistrial? Is there any way of getting out? I've asked the other lawyers this too. Any way of getting out of having the verdict read and stand on count 3 if the jury comes back and says, Judge, we're still in the same place. We got a verdict on 3, not on the other counts?
Well, when I first heard this information, I thought the answer to your question was no. But now, after hearing what has unfolded, I think there is a potential problem now with the verdict because there's a potential inconsistency in this regard. How is it if you assume that the third count is a guilty verdict, which I think it is? I agree with Mark on that. If you assume that, how does a jury find Mr. Edwards guilty on count 3, but they can't decide on count 2? If they've decided guilty on 3, they've decided...
It's the year. Maybe they thought one thing was a gift and one wasn't.
But what makes 1 year different than the other when it comes to, is it an illegal campaign contribution? If the jury has decided that it's an illegal campaign contribution in 2008, how is the jury deciding it's not an illegal campaign contribution in 2007? If the jury believes that, let me finish. If the jury believes that Mr. Edwards intended to deceive the public on the cover-up of the affair in 2008, how does a jury find that he didn't intend to do that in 2007? I think there's a potential for inconsistency now.
Let me play advocate for John Edwards, Mark. 2008, they've got a verdict on. 2007, they're hopelessly deadlocked on her contributions. Could it be that they have come to a not guilty verdict with respect to 2008 because they said 2007, we don't know. He was much more political that year. He was in the Democratic nomination fight in 2007. So half the jurors say, yeah, those were political donations. The other half says, no, they weren't. You get to 2008, he's much more out of it by 2008. Maybe on that count, all of the jurors say, you know what? That was definitely a gift. That wasn't a campaign contribution, because even though he was vying for Attorney General and so on, he wasn't as much in it. So on that one, we all think he's not guilty.
Excellent. I love it. You're absolutely right that that is one possibility. I don't think that it's likely. I think it is a possibility, however. Keep in mind, though, your thought process has one major premise, and that is that these jurors think like you do. It was early on in my career that I ruled that out as always a guaranteed. When a federal jury, after a long deliberation, came back with a note, we couldn't wait to see what it was, and the note was, what does unanimous mean? And does was spelled D-O-S-E, and it was unamos. So, again, this is what potentially we're dealing with.
That is disturbing. No, you never know what you're dealing with in terms of the jury, but the bottom line is they get the final say, Brian. They get the final say. And now, in your experience with Allen charges, how likely is it that a jury that was hopelessly deadlocked on 5 counts is going to come back with a verdict?
I don't think it's going to make any difference. I think the judge did what she had to do because so much time has been invested in the case and so much money. But imagine these jurors 9 days looking at each other. I don't think this case is about the evidence anymore. I think it's about willpower. I think you've got jurors in there with different personalities, And unless there is a juror in there who is going to make a world of difference and who's going to have the strength to try to strong-arm somebody to change their mind, I don't think the reading of the Allen charge is going to change the result, which is going to be a hung jury on the remaining counts.
We're going to talk about the outstanding issues in terms of possible appeals and how this complicates matters with the rest of our legal panel. Arthur, Randy, after the break, guys, thank you.